Insecurity in its different forms has become rampant in our nation. What does our President Muhammadu Buhari have to say about it? And also, the major mandate of Buhari's first term was fighting corruption. How can we raise the EFCC's efforts to fight it? This is Plus Politics, and I am Mary Anna Cohn. Over the past recent years, insecurity in different forms have plagued the nation, destroying countless lives and property. It has mainly come in form of Boko Haram attack, the operations, Niger Delta militants, armed robbery and kidnapping. The Muhammadu Buhari administration has recently had some things to say about the current insecurity in the country. Well, to discuss with me this evening, I have Mr. Ayo Ademiluyi. He is a legal practitioner. It's good to have you join us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we're still in the mood of Democracy Day, you know. June 12th was just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
Mm. Yes. Did you join in the celebration?
I was part of a program in Ibadan to reflect on the lessons of June 12th, and then to also rescue June 12th from the heap of, the distortion of that history, of the real history of what led to June 12th, unlike the kind of celebration that happened elsewhere. It was a period for sober reflection.
I see.
As for to the role of the real heroes and heroines of June 12, where the ordinary people, faceless fighters, people who were shot on the streets in that mass uprising.
Okay, well, for those who watched the Democracy Day celebration, and for those who watched the inauguration, who were expecting the president to make a speech, and finally he did make that speech. Now, something that caught the attention of a lot of people was what he said on insecurity, saying that a lot of leaders were involved, politicians were behind the level of insecurity in the country. I'm sure you also heard that. What was the first reaction you had when you heard it?
I think it's a self-indicting statement. I think in a way, when you want to rescue yourself from blame, first of all, you blame yourself in a way to run away from the duty of what you have to do. So if the president is saying that the politicians, himself included, in any event, are responsible for the insecurity in the country, then I think it's an attempt to run away from the real issues. Because the real issues are the fact that the background to insecurity is a largely deplorable situation that we have found ourselves in terms of mass unemployment. We have an army of unemployed young people who can easily find easy jobs, so to speak, in kidnapping, in armed banditry, and all of that. So you can't put your house on fire and expect to sleep tight, so to speak. So we are in a self-created. As he said, it is our ruling class, the political elite, that really created this situation. First and foremost, by the fact that they live in terms of their own existence, socio-economic, etc., is far above the 99% and all of that. So there is no guarantee that as far as that inequality is evident and very clear, to the extent that Nigeria is regarded as the poorest part of the world, and even the capital of the rest of the earth, then insecurity will reign supreme.
For me, this reminds me of something that we heard, something similar that we had under the Goodluck administration, where President Goodluck said he knew some Boko Haram sponsors, and they were even in his government. And like you said, that sounded self-indicting. But the question on everybody's lips is, What are you going to do about it if you know that you have intel of some sort? What is being done about it?
Without prejudice to my earlier submission about the fact that the statement of the president is a self-indicting one, as you have said, he may also be blacklisting some people who he feels are on the other side of the divide, in terms of the way politics is being played in this country. But be that as it may, the question, that rhetorical question, that why has the president refused to take decisive action against those he probably or possibly believes to be behind the security in the country, is a rhetorical question. The reality is the fact that the insecurity, the armed banditry, the killings, all of that are also part and parcel of the way this country is being governed, in the sense that we are all aware of how our political elite, whenever they want to go for power, they harm unemployed and jobless youths to serve as foot soldiers in their bloody test for power. And those harmed unemployed youths, as soon as the politicians climb to power, are forgotten. And those ones have to find a form of or a means of employment for themselves. Mm-hmm. So we continue to breed an army of bandits, an army of kidnappers, an army of people who want to use every shortcut to make ends meet and all of that.
But when we sound this way, it makes it seem like...
I'm coming to a conclusion. Now, the fact that the Buhari regime has not taken a decisive action also shows that naturally there's a lot of compromises. If you look at the character of the 2019 election, it was more or less also arguably one of the most compromised election you can talk of, in terms of the kind of alliances, rotten alliances built across the different sections of the political elite, all in the bid to retain power. You recollect that individuals like that are evidently having corruption cases around their neck. A person of the former majority leader, that is Senator from Akwa Ibom State.
Yes.
That's the
Akpabio.
Akpabio, Senator Akpabio. Had a corruption case around his neck, and all of a sudden he crossed the political divide to APC, and his sins were forgiven, just like the national chairperson of that party also said, Adams Oshiomhole, that once you are in the right camp, all your sins are forgiven. So the elements that those kind of rotten alliances were built to retain power at all costs, just to make sure that South votes.
But how does that translate to the insecurity that we have in the country? It
translates in the sense that once those rotten alliances have been struck, you cannot repudiate them by attacking those who brought you into power. That's just the reality. If he is convinced that there are some people or there are some elements that are behind insecurity, and your question is that why is he not taking decisive action against them, then the clear answer is because they have deep political compromises, and alliances through which they're able to hold on to power. And that is even the major source of the problem. That's the fact that in this country we try to ride roughshod over the correct processes to get at what we want at all costs. We continue repeating the same mistakes, doing things the same way, and lamenting year in and year out.
Let's take a look at what Mr. President said. We have a clip, and when we come back, we'll talk more.
We came to office in 2015. After a decade of struggle, we identified 3 cardinal and existential challenges our country faced and made them our campaign focus, namely security, economy, and fighting corruption. None but the most partisan will dispute that in the last 4 years we have made solid progress in addressing these challenges. When I took the oath of office on 29th May 2015, insecurity reigned. Apart from occupying 18 local governments in the northeast, Boko Haram could at will attack any city, including the federal capital, could threaten any institution, including bombing the United Nations building and police headquarters in Abuja. Admittedly, some of the challenges still remain in kidnappings, banditry in some rural areas. The great difference between 2015 and today is that we are meeting these challenges with much greater support to the security forces in terms of money, equipment, and improved local intelligence. We are meeting these challenges with superior strategy, firepower, and resolve. In face of these challenges, our government elected by the people in 2015 and re-elected in March has been mapping out policies, measures, and laws to maintain our unity and at the same time lift the bulk of our people out of poverty and onto the road to prosperity. This task is by no means unattainable. China has done it. India has done it. Indonesia has done it. Nigeria can do it.
So that's Mr. President yesterday on Democracy Day talking about insecurity. He also gave himself a pat on the back when it comes to Boko Haram. He said, look, they've been able to push back. And I'd like to toe the line of the presidential aide, the Minister for Information, saying technically Boko Haram has been defeated and they've been able to take over some lands that Boko Haram preoccupied. But there are people who beg to differ, including you.
Yes, I differ in the sense that if you look at it, the background, as I've said, the background to insecurity, background to terrorism is the same thing. Is the socio-economic crisis. The fact is that terrorism can continue for the next 100 years because it doesn't need a conventional army in which you have trained personnel, you have barracks, then you have a style of warfare. It can take all kinds of forms and styles, and that is why, despite the self-eulogizing claim of the president that they have driven back Boko Haram from the local government where they occupy, which is true to every extent, and even the FCT where they came in and all that, you can say they occur. Afghanistan is arguably the capital of suicide bombing in the world today, because
there was one bomb today. Actually,
the world today. You know why it continues to top the list of countries that you have regular suicide bombing? It's because of the fact that for the past 40 years in that country, you have had a major letdown of the intervention of the United States in that country. You have that country is arguably one of the worst livable countries to live in. It has one of the highest poverty rates, and as long as all those things are not eliminated, it will continue to occur. So the fact is that once we have not resolved our unemployment, our poor and terrible unemployment indices, we have not resolved the question of health, education. As far as the northern Nigeria is concerned, it's arguably one of the poorest part of the world. In fact, topping India. So what are we talking about? We are talking about, so all the claims about you have wiped out Boko Haram. Now Boko Haram is just one. It was Boko Haram we are dealing with. Was just one single index in 2015. Now 2019, 4 years after, we are dealing with kidnapping. In fact, on the highway to my
list a couple of places, because I always say that if Nigeria was this piece of paper and you had to toss this pen on the paper, wherever it went, whatever direction it faced, there was some form of insecurity. Yesterday, I was having a conversation here on Plus Politics, and one of my guests was complaining about the fact that our highways are no longer safe because of kidnapping. Kaduna-Abuja Expressway is terrible. You can't even even go to, there was one who said he wanted to go to Ekiti. He used to drive to Ekiti at will. Now he can't do that because the roads are no longer safe. So we have kidnappings, we have banditry, we have all kinds of things happening every day. So we can't just say Boko Haram is a win, so everything is at peace. We have other issues. In fact,
I received a report from a family relative in interior Ijesha land, where the poor cocoa farmer was kidnapped. You can imagine. That's the level we have degenerated to. People, unemployed people, the level of unemployment is sufficient for people to resort to all kinds of means to get by and all that. So without resolving the basic necessities of life, and you feel that you pour thousands of troops to Sambisa forest, I will not resolve anything.
Why does it seem so difficult for us to, like you said, terrorism is it's an ongoing thing. It might take forever to put an end to it, but reducing the level of insecurity in the country, it seems so out of the hands of our governors and even the president. It seems like it seems like rocket science.
Part of the speech of the president yesterday that I read was that they are compiling data of all employed people, compiling data of poor people. In fact, they say I've compiled about 100,000. Then they will solve that. Then they will go to another 100,000. But I think that is more or less an unscientific way of resolving the kind of crisis we have found ourselves. Mm-hmm. Now, according to the World Bank, about 98% of Nigerians live on less than $1 a day. So for you to resolve that, we are going to have a program of mass industrialization. Not industrialization that involves having slave labor factories and all of that, but industrialization that involves having sustainable jobs that are, and one of the major industries is education. Now, if you have a qualitative education sector in this country, it can employ thousands of people, graduates roaming the streets. Then we can reproduce scientists. We can explore technology. We can produce technology for the world and things like that.
So you're saying that provision of basic amenities, the basic needs in life, is going to reduce the level of insecurity?
Certainly. Once we are able to get that right, once you have someone as a means of employment, a viable means of employment, it is very, very difficult to recruit such a person to the industry of crime or the industry of kidnapping or whatever means of
But what about our law enforcement? Because, you know, we talk about the issue of we don't have enough police officers, we don't have intelligence, you know, and we see instead of police officers actually helping us, they're fighting us, they're beating people up and, you know, arresting them unnecessarily and begging also, which I somewhat want to agree with you to an extent that maybe poverty is part of the problem. But we have poor security officials, especially when it comes to law enforcement, and half the time the army is brought in. What do we do in that area also to, you know, and then the fact that governors also are security officers by name or on paper, but, you know, they still have to go through the process of the chain line or chain of command all the way to Abuja.
Well, in every circumstances, as I've said, law enforcement officers themselves are human beings. First and foremost, if a soldier is hungry and you give him a gun to go and face well-prepared troops of Boko Haram bandits, he or she will find himself, you know, finding the nearest escape route to run away from death and all that. But be as it may, I'm of the view that we need a properly remunerated law enforcement agency, including the military in this country. And remember, you will recall that in 2015, in the event leading up to 2015, there were mutinies in the barracks. Then after even 2015, even after the ascension of the Buhari regime to power, we have equally had reports of troops at the war fronts not having, you know, adequate remuneration, adequate welfare, adequate being taken care of. So if you are using an army of hungry people to fight an army of frustrated people, we are going to get the same results. We are going to just land the situation where we are lamenting year in, year out that insecurity has not been resolved.
Quickly, before we go, do you see this next 4 years of the president's administration sincerely head-on dealing with insecurity, or is it just going to be lip service as we saw in the last administration?
I do not have confidence in the capacity.
Why?
I will give you reasons in the capacity of the current President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration to resolve insecurity. Because if you look carefully at the speech delivered yesterday, he does not address, as I've said, the realities of the terrible socio-economic existence that we have found ourselves. Even the programs being proffered are more or less, you know, the same projects. So what we are going to be having, without not being necessarily being a prophet of doom, is that we are going to be having this kind of lamentation every year, because we are just shy away from the truth. The truth is that a government has failed its people in trying to meet the earnings of education. As we speak, less than 26% is even provided for education. The academic staff of Nigeria universities continue to strike in every year in, year out on proper funding of education. Health sector is in shambles. In terms of industrialization, the basic power is inexistent. Then, well, what celebration do we have to do? We are approaching, and then to add, we are seeing also a veneer of attack on democratic rights. There was this statement by the Department of State Services to the effect that people on social media should be careful about statements they make and all of that. And those who incite social violence, I don't know the definition of that, will be arrested and molested. We are seeing a siege of attack on democratic rights. I was in Ibadan yesterday, as I've said, and there was a report of a live radio program in which DSS operatives moved into the studio and were questioning the way the operatives of the broadcast organization was running their programs as to the kind of guests they are inviting. Some of them are even inciting the people against the regime. Now, there is the code of the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission.
Yes, we have a broadcasting code.
If media stations have fulfilled their obligations, they should not be under any repression by this regime. If this regime feels that it's going to use the arm twisting tactics to resolve insecurity, we are going to have more and more series of insecurity in the coming period.
Wow, you just painted a very scary picture, but we want to thank you, Ayo Ademeluyi, legal practitioner, for speaking with us. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the EFCC and its fight against corruption. How well have they fought this fight? Stay with us.